But I think the main things is at the end of the day, volleyball is volleyball. It's in the same 9x9 court, and the rules are the same. So we is that on the back of your shirt?
Yeah, it's on the back of your shirt.
A little free shout out for you. And it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the net. You need to still execute to the best of your ability if you want a chance to win.
That's right, Brett Walsh. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the 9x9, the 81 square meters of the best volleyball coverage on the internet. My name is Rob St. Clair, live from Chicago. That is Everett Delorme, live from Toronto. Today is Tuesday, May 16th, 2023. This is episode 68. Everett, this is it. Yeah, we're close. Next week's going to be a big. Next week's going to be a big show for many reasons, but one of them is that this is it for the 2022 to 23 club volleyball season. This is it. This is literally the last week. There are 3 more matches left in all of club volleyball, and they are all this coming week. And on next week's show, that's it. But on this show as well, it is championship week. We have a lot of hardware that has been won in the last 7 days, and we have a lot that we want to get into.
Yeah, absolutely. Big week. As you said, it's all done after this weekend with the Champions League finals going on this weekend. We got one last match in the SuperLega men's finals as well going down tomorrow. But we gave away a bunch of hardware this weekend. There was a lot to watch, a lot going on. It was awesome. And you know what, Rob, I'm excited about? We're very, very close to VNL, and we're very, very close to potentially getting another clip and another soundbite to start the show off where I'm not stammering like a goddamn idiot. Just excited that he dropped the 9x9.
I never want to retire that Brett Walsh clip because of how organically it came up, and the look on your face when he says it and you slowly turn around. It's just the best.
Everything up to that point is fantastic, but then my answer is just like, it's like if a girl asked me to prom for the first time in my life, and I'm just like, yeah, you know, like
speaking from experience, I'm sure.
Whoa, come on, no,
almost made you do it again just there.
Don't play that game with me. But yeah, Rob, it has been a fantastic week of watching volleyball. So let's just jump right into it. Let's start off with the Lega Volley Femminile. I know in the past that the Italian aficionados have told us that it's not a Scudetto, but they literally had Scudetto Femminile on the court.
Yes, they did.
So we're going to call this a Scudetto. 5 in a row for Conegliano. It went down to the wire. It really did. They went the distance since we saw you guys last. We've had 3 matches. Great job for scheduling from the Lega Volley Femminile. Not so much on the men's side. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Thursday was a 5-set decision to Monza. Saturday was a 3-0 win for Conegliano at Monza to force game number 5. And then yesterday we saw an unbelievable match. Monza dominated for the first set and a half. And then my girl, everyone's favorite, give a round of applause for Alexa Gray for coming in and turning things around with an MVP performance. It was absolutely beautiful. Rob, where do you want to start on this one? Do you want to start back on Thursday, or do you just want to skip right to Monday?
I think we can talk a little bit about the previous 2 matches. I think you can summarize it in saying this was the hardest of all, like the 5 titles in a row that Conegliano has now won. This was the hardest they've ever had to work to win one. And we really didn't think that was going to be the case coming into the playoffs because they were pretty much untouchable all season. They were clearly the best team in the league. They breezed through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, but all the credit in the world goes to Monza for pushing them this hard, and Monza legitimately had chances to win this series. I mean, grabbing game 3 on the road in 5 was a stunner. They were 1 match away from winning the Scudetto, from taking it away from Conegliano's claws, and the first set and a half, like you said, of the 5th match yesterday, I was thinking, oh my goodness, is this what we're going to be talking about on tomorrow's show? Like, are we going to be talking about giving hardware away to Monza after naming the Figure It Out award of the week after them all year long? Have they finally figured it out at the most crucial time? And the answer ultimately was no, partly in due to this young lady right here. What a masterclass by Alexa Gray off the bench. 22 for 32 attacking, above 60% efficiency, incredible passing numbers, an ace and 2 blocks for 25 points. in 2.5 sets and a well-deserved MVP of match 5. Everett, your Canadian girl, much maligned all season long, has barely seen the court. Time to give her flowers.
I mean, there's two things I want to talk about. Obviously, Alexa Gray is the first one here. I feel very vindicated right now because we had some stooges in the Discord being like, oh, Alexa Gray should have gone to like a lower level Italian team or a lower level Turkey team where she could, be the star. Do you guys not forget that she was like a top 5 scorer in the SuperLega Femminile the past 2 seasons, playing for a top 5 team in Busto? Like, she was that team alongside Camilla Mongardi. Like, she was carrying that team, and that's why she got this offer with Conegliano. Now, it's hard to criticize what Santarelli does in terms of his decisions, given how much success he's had of late, both with the professional side and on the international side. But I was always kind of questioning, why don't you flip it up? Why don't you switch it up a little bit? You're always going with Plummer and Kelsey Robinson-Cook. Why don't you switch it up a little bit? And she really didn't get the chance until game number 5. They subbed her in the second set. Conegliano was down. The other half that I want to talk about here is Jordan Thompson, because she was absolutely phenomenal. I'm not entirely sure if Malonza in its entirety figured it out, or just Jordan Thompson, because like the one game that she didn't play well, game number 4, that was the one that Conegliano won easily in
3-0. And she got hurt minorly. I think she went out in like the second set maybe of that 4th match with some kind of a thigh injury that they were talking about on the broadcast yesterday in game 5. But the word that came to mind for Jordan Thompson's performance was a warrior. She was a 100%. Warrior. 77 attempts in 4 sets in match 5.
They were feeding it to her, right? Nuts. And no one else was even in double digits for Malonza on the other side, which across 4 sets isn't great. And then, Larson had 9 points, 9 for 24. Rafaela Foley had 9 points. She did have 5 blocks. Ultimately, it wasn't that good. But man, it was just it felt so good to watch Alexa just be absolutely automatic. 12 points in that 4th set to finish things off. She was got 10 kills, 2 blocks. Just absolutely automatic. They're feeding her in the pipe. They're feeding on the outside. And you could just tell that there was, I wouldn't say it an entire year of frustration, because I know that she dealt with some injuries at times and, was completely out of the lineup and wasn't even dressed to play. But it just must have felt so good that when her team needed her the most, she was able to go out there and deliver. Because let's be honest, once again, in a clutch situation, when the trophy was on the line, Catherine Plummer wasn't able to, which is something that I've continued to talk about now for 3 seasons, where Catherine Plummer does fantastic throughout 80-90% of the season and then disappears in gut check time, just like we saw last year in the Champions League finals for Conegliano. But you know what? Massive match there from Alexa Gray. Rob, you talked about it. She passed really well too.
She did, and she
got
targeted because everybody knows that part of the scouting report. As soon as she came on, she was getting targeted, and she hung in there extremely well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she got targeted the most by anyone on Conegliano, 21 targets. She was 67% positive, 43% perfect.
Outstanding.
Outstanding. And I mean, that's the Alexa Gray I know, right? Like that's Alexa Gray in a nutshell. So I also kind of wanted Conegliano to win. Once again, we've talked about this before. I love excellence, and I love how this is 5 titles in a row for them. They've just been absolutely fantastic. So big ups to them. It's going to be interesting to see how Malonza and what other superstars they go to pack on their team moving forward to next year.
Well, the rumor, Everett, is that none other than Paula Egonu herself will be joining Malonza next year. Vakifbank even has confirmed that Egonu will be leaving Vakifbank after this year. It's only a matter of time until I think we hear that announcement officially. But I have a couple more takes on this series that I want to get out there. I mean, associated with Alexa Gray, what we were talking about on last week's show and what we were noticing was really the key matchup and sort of the Achilles heel for both of these teams was the outside hitter position. And the reason why I was kind of confused why it took so long to even give Alexa Gray a try is because Conegliano had 4 extremely capable outside hitters. They had 2 primary scoring outside hitters in Plummer and Gray, and 2 primary like ball control L2 types in Kelsey Robinson and Alessia Gennari. So when Plummer is bad, which for a lot of the series she was, putting Gennari in is not the answer. Then you have zero offensive presence on the left side, and you're chucking every ball to Isabel Hawk. That's why you have 4 good outside hitters and 2 of each distinct type. So I was a little confused as to why Gray didn't come in earlier, but maybe if she did, she might not have pulled this unbelievable performance in match 5 of the final. And to that same extent, Miriam Silla for Malonza against her former team was terrible. Terrible.
Not
2
great.
for 20 with 3 errors. Just bad, and just a complete non-factor. And Jordan Larson was fine. I mean, she's the L2. That's her role on the Malonza team. She's not going to score you that many points. And of all times for Marco Gaspari of Malonza to give his players a long leash, which is the exact opposite of what he's been doing all season. The only time he gives them a leash that is too long is in match 5 of the final with their backs against the wall. And I just did not understand that. Sila was bad from the get-go and should have been changed out halfway through the first set. And
100%.
She was allowed to continue for far too long, and it really hurt them.
I think Gaspari got outcoached in this one.
For sure.
I truly did. There was no, it just seemed like they were rolling for it a set and a half. Conegliano made the change. They brought on Alexa Gray, and they were also bringing in someone in to pass for her as well.
They brought in Paracati a couple
Yeah.
times. She's the backup libero, so that they would do that so that they could put another foreigner in. There was some math going on there.
Yeah.
So it was basically a DS.
But yeah, basically, that's them using their roster to the advantage.
Yes.
And at this point, you're down. It's game 5. There's nothing left to lose. Try to get Magdalena Stesiak in there. We know she hasn't been fantastic on the left side at times, but man, throw her in there. As we said, Miriam Silla was not good whatsoever. Just figure out a way to get another arm in there, because Jordan Thompson is getting tired, right? She was
basically on one leg. She really was, and they still gave her 77 balls.
Literally 50%. 50% of the offense went to Jordan Thompson, right? She had 77 of 154.
Yeah, right on the number.
Right,
Wow.
right on the number. 50%. You need to put someone in there who's going to take some attempts away from her, because you could tell that she was unreal through sets 1 and 2, and then it started to go down from there. And that's exactly why Conegliano just dominated sets 3 and 4, and even in set 1, right? I turned on the game and it was 18-13, and I was just like, oh, look, Malonza's running away with this. I think they were up 24-18 at one point, and they ended up winning it 25-23. So you could tell that Malonza was a little sketchy and just not quite all there. So I mean, at the end of the day, big ups to Conegliano. There's no doubt in my mind that they're the number 1 club, definitely in Italy. But just from the consistency point, you lose a player like Paolo Gono, you bring in Isabel Hawk, and you don't even miss a beat. You still win the Scudetto. So fantastic job by them, and also to Malonza as well.
Yeah,
to push it to this distance. I didn't even expect them to get past Scandici. They were able to do that. They are able to push it to 5, make it exciting, but just not enough the tank for Jordan Thompson at the end of the day.
Yeah, Thompson had an amazing series. I think she really increased her stock, put herself up in that not quite the elite echelon of female opposites with, your Bošković, Agonu, Hawk. And then I would say Vargas is right there as well. I think Stisiak, Thompson, and Karakurt are up next. And right now I would take Thompson over either of those 2 other players. So she had a great series. I'm excited to see her play for the U.S. women this summer, if she can get healthy, because boy, did Malonza really run her into the ground this series. But Conegliano to win 5 titles in a row is just insane, with all the turnover that they've had, and with as hard as they got pushed in this series, for Santarelli to bring those girls back from down a set, from down big. I mean, they were down 16-10 in the second. They had to meaningfully change the momentum of that game, and it was exactly when Alexa Gray came in that everything turned around.
Yeah. She was, like I said, she was absolutely automatic. She had a 69% hitting percentage. It was just unreal. Love to see that from the Calgary native. Can't wait to see her wearing the maple leaf in 2 weeks.
Oh,
so
yeah, pretty damn
stoked
soon.
about that. So it just bodes well. Alexa Gray, MVP of Game 5 here. Bree King was the top setter in the Brazilian League. Can't wait. Gonna be awesome. Stoked to see it.
Very nice. Okay. Anything else about the Scudetto on the women's side? Congrats to Conegliano again. But are you ready to move on? Sticking on the women's side, though?
Yeah, absolutely. Or do you want to jump to the men's side on Italy?
No, I want to talk about this because it's
Okay.
another piece of hardware that's been given out. And Everett, we've been talking about it for a while. We've got an all Turkish Champions League final on the women's side this weekend, but neither of those teams win the Sultanlar Ligi. That honor goes to Fenerbahçe for a 3-0 series sweep win over Eczacıbaşı. They win their first title since 2017. We talked about games 1 and 2 on last week's show. Game 3 was Thursday. It was a 5-set win for Fenerbahçe, where Tijana Bošković was bad. She was dreadfully bad. Negative efficiency, got blocked 12 times, including to lose set 1, which Eczacıbaşı absolutely should have won, and to lose the match in the 5th set, which I think was 15-8. Yeah, so that was never really in doubt once it got to the 5th. Fenerbahçe, out of absolutely nowhere, got dusted in the Turkish Cup and then completely turned it around just like 2 weeks ago and got incredibly hot at the right time. And they knock off Vakıfbank and Eczacıbaşı in order to win the Sultanlar League. Just ridiculous. Speaks to the all-time high parity in all of women's volleyball right now.
Absolutely. It really does. And like, I think we really need to have a serious conversation just about how good the Turkish Women's League is right now. When you look at Vakıfbank and Eczacıbaşı and of course Fenerbahçe. Fenerbahçe absolutely dominated Conegliano in the Champions League. I think that's one of them that I would think Conegliano wishes that they could have had back. Maybe Santarelli would have chose to go to Alexa Gray at some point there, and it might have been a little bit different. But hey, hindsight's always 2020, but Fenerbahçe was just unreal in this finals match. 22 blocks. That was the big one.
Crazy.
They dominated at the net. They weren't as effective necessarily from the baseline as they have been kind of throughout most of their success this season, but at the net they were absolutely dominated. Asli Kalak was unreal. 6 blocks, 7 for 7 attacking. She only put up 15 points, but you had four of the attackers for Fenerbahçe in double digits. 16 for Fedoritseva, 15 for Asli, 14 for Anna Cristina, 13 for and
then 19 for Vargas. Actually, all of them,
all of them, yeah,
in double digits in total scoring, which is it's amazing. And there were a couple things that we talked about on last week's show. One that I called that I definitely would stand by. I think I was vindicated that I thought that Eczacıbaşı should have changed setters. I really do. I did not think Maya Njenovic set a good offense on Thursday. They brought in Saliha Şahin at outside for Hande Baladin, who was bad. They brought in her sister Elif Şahin, who's the backup setter, only briefly. And when they did, it looked better. That's why I was confused that Akbaş didn't stick with that, because it did look better when they brought in the backup setter. But once again, Eczacıbaşı gets snake bit by a bad outside hitter performance. Voronkova was fine. She passed the ball decently, did make 9 errors and only get 12 kills. But the second outside hitter position was not good. And then Bošković just had a bad game. Bad game with her back against the wall. Is one of the best players in the world to not win any major hardware this club season yet for Eczacıbaşı. They do still have a chance on Sunday, but they went, what? I know it was undefeated, 22-0, 24-0. And
in the regular season,
and we've seen that twice for Perugia on the men's side, Eczacıbaşı on the women's side, undefeated in the regular season, and you do not win the title. Fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they didn't win the Turkish Cup.
Nope.
They didn't win the Super Cup. They didn't win the FIVB World Club Championships.
They didn't play the Super Cup, to be fair. But
you're right. They
did not show up well in the Club World Championship.
Yeah. So it is interesting. Kind of makes me think of maybe like the Boston Bruins this year, having the best record ever in the NHL and then getting knocked out in the first round by the Florida Panthers. Hell, maybe even the Toronto Maple Leafs, who actually that's been a little bit more about like a Perugia. So much pressure year after year. You just can't get it done. But it would be very, very interesting to me to see if, who Conegliano won the Club World Championships. Fenerbahçe wins the cup. Was it Vakıfbank who won the cup, or no? It was Fenerbahçe.
Vakıfbank won the cup. Fenerbahçe won the Super Cup, and that the Turkish Cup was just like 2 weeks ago, because they had so much catching up to do. They were playing playoff matches every other day, and Fenerbahçe got past Vakıfbank in that golden set, and they win, I think, 3-1, 3-2, 3-2 in the final in a best-of-5 series. It's crazy how hot they got and how well-timed it was.
Yeah, absolutely. So if Zashabasha can win this weekend against Vakif that would be very interesting because we have different winners for all of those major titles other than the Italian Cup and the Italian Scudetto, of course. But I think
all-time parity, man. It's crazy,
time.
crazy this women's volleyball season. Yeah, there's a lot of discussions to be had about, especially depending on who wins the Champions League. But is the Turkish league the best league in the world? I think it's fair to ask, but it also might not. Does it help them or hurt them that the Champions League winner did not win the Scudetto, or not the Scudetto, but did not win the Sultanlar Ligi, regardless of what happens this weekend? I think it's fascinating. There's a ton of moving
I think it
parts.
helps them.
Really?
I think it oh yeah, it absolutely helps them. It just shows the parity and the strength amongst those top teams. Where the question for the Sultanlar Ligi for me is just how quickly that drop off is. And we've seen, I wouldn't say there's parity between all of the teams in the Lega Volley Femminile, but the lower level teams in the Lega Volley Femminile are much better than the lower level teams.
That's what I've always said is the differentiator. Yeah, the bad teams in Turkey are really bad.
Once you get past a few of those next teams like the Galatasarays and the Nulufers, I know Yeşilyurt was pretty good a few years ago, but that's because they had Alexia Karatasu, who's now back with Vakif. It really depends on those athletes that are getting loaned out to those lesser teams. Yeah. If not, it's kind of it's a walk in the park.
Yeah, the budget disparity in Turkey is crazy. 100%. Like the teams that have the gigantic banks or gigantic public funding compared to the lesser teams, it ends up being pretty clear. But it's just really interesting that because the past couple of years, Europe has been dominated by one or two teams in particular. Like last year, the last couple of years, it's always been Vakif versus Conegliano. We always knew they were going to win their respective leagues. We always knew they were going to face off in the Champions League final. And this year, there have been way more contenders, way more parity across the board the entire season. It's been very dynamic, very, very fun. And I mean, we almost saw Malonza beat Conegliano. And we almost saw Scandici beat Malonza in the semifinals. Like that, yes. Even in Italy, the parity was higher than we expected.
100%. And I mean, also another thing, when you look at the Sultanlar League and you look at past champions, I mean, there's only been 4 teams to win this, and one of them doesn't exist anymore. Emlak Bankası, right? Other than that, it's Zashabasha, Vakif and Fenerbahçe, right? And Bankası hasn't won since '96, right? So it's almost been 30 years since another team other than those top 3 teams has won a Sultanlar Ligi. So when you're looking at the parity of a Sultanlar Ligi compared to a Lega Volley Femminile, the parity is much stronger with the Lega Volley Femminile for sure. But that top end of the Sultanlar Ligi is so strong.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and we're going to get to see a battle this weekend that we'll talk about in a bit between 2 other Turkish teams that aren't the Sultanlar Ligi champions. But yeah, Fenerbahçe goes home victorious. Just fascinating what they did to redefine a style of women's volleyball that can have success. And it was we've talked about it a lot ever since their Champions League win when they upset Conegliano. Then they lost in the Turkish Cup. It was up and down, but the pure service firepower, the blocking presence, and the out of system attacking ability that were almost men's volleyball like were hot and cold at the various points throughout the year, but they got hot in time to win a championship. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if it has anything to do, you've got the majority of the league. How many teams? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the teams in the Sultanlar League all in Istanbul, and you've got another 4 in Ankara. So yeah, they're all just stocked on top of each other in one place. Hell, 4 of them play out of the same venue,
arena. Yeah, that's a good point. So when we'll preview the Vakif versus Zashabasha matchup in Champions League later on in the show. Anything else about Fenerbahçe's win, Everett?
Yeah, I do think that there's one person that we're missing out here and giving a load of credit, maybe the most, and that has to be Macris. The way she runs that offense, though, she was, to me, she's a top 2 setter in the world right now, right? It's her and Voloj, and there's no doubt about it. And I think you have to give her that number 1 spot just on how much success she has at the national team level, whereas Voloj hasn't really attained that just quite yet.
Voloj hasn't played for Poland. She didn't play for Poland in the last 5 years because she didn't get along with the coach, and now she's back with Barbolini, or not Barbolini. what's the Novara coach's name? Why can't I think of it? Lavarini, that's it. So
Lavarini, yes.
I don't think that's a fair comparison, but I think Volish is number one for sure. But I'm happy to put Macris at 2. She had an awesome year.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to see this summer, because I definitely think Macris is up there for sure. Like, she could be contending for number 1. Other than that, like, I can't really think of a setter who competes with the either one of those two on the women's side.
Yeah, I mean, Fedorov-Seva, top 2 outside hitter in the world for sure. Melissa Vargas, top 4 opposite in the world for sure. She's definitely put herself up there. I'm fascinated to see Vargas this summer. A lot to talk about with that in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, congratulations to Fenerbahçe.
Yep, 100%. It's going to be an exciting this weekend. This weekend too, between Vakif Bank and Jastrzębski.
All right, let's go back to Italy, but shift over to the men's side. Everett, I thought for sure that we would be talking about Trentino winning the Scudetto this week on the show, but not so fast, says Lube Civitanova. No Ivan Zaitsev, apparently no problem, and a huge amount of credit obviously has to go to Marlon Yant, and I know that Ronnie Cuban Spike is going to be thrilled in the chat. But
that's the only reason he's watching this episode, because he knows that Marlon Yant had his best game of the season,
maybe of his career. 15 for 23 and 7 aces and 2 blocks.
7 aces, yeah,
nuts.
100%. He was absolutely automatic. I know Ronnie was going off in the Discord and being like, "Oh, Marlon Yant, the best Cuban outside." I mean, bro, he sits on the bench for Cuba behind Guerrero and Lopez. So let's not even get that. But in this one, he was absolutely unreal. Just when Lube needed him the most, he steps up. A little bit error prone, but when you're dropping the amount of points that he has, as you said, like, oh wait, not error prone at all. Sorry, his stat line was right before the total stat line. Only 1 error in this one.
Yeah, one unforced error, never blocked attacking. 7 aces to 6 service errors is a great ratio. Like, and that's just an all-time great match. It's amazing.
Yeah, 100%. An all-time great. It was his highest, like his season high point total by far this season. I mean, yeah, when you look at his stats from the rest of the games, it wasn't looking good. And man, Lube really brought it to Trentino in this one. They really, really did. I didn't think they had much of a shot without Zaitsev, who was really their emotional leader, but they really brought it to them. And I mean, they fed off that home crowd, but still, it was awesome to see.
Yeah, so we were wondering what Lube was going to do with their lineup, because not only do they lose Zaitsev, who was lining up at opposite but passing a lot of balls, they also lose an Italian guy. And to comply with the foreigner limit, they had to do one of 2 things. They had to either bench Bartolomei Ciniese, which they were not going to do in the middle, or they had to put in Mattia Bottolo somewhere. And so what they did is they put Bottolo and Yant on the outsides, which I kind of expected, and then they lined up Alex Nikolov at opposite, who ended up not being all that good, 5 for 14 with 4 errors, getting benched, and huge credit as well needs to go to Gabi Garcia, who hasn't had a very good second half of the season in limited action, but he comes off the bench in the second set, casually drops 13 for 17, and served the ball decently well. Bottolo hung in there just fine. He looked comfortable enough. 11 for 20 with 3 errors is a very good match, but putting Nikolov on the right, but then giving him a little bit of a short leash and giving Garcia a chance was exactly the right move for Blengini in Zaitsev's absence. And it worked out extremely well.
It was a really short lead for Nikolov as well, because in the first set, he was fantastic. In the first set, he had 6 points, 4 kills, and 2 aces. So he was really, really good in that first set, and then it dropped off quickly in the second. Obviously, Trentino made a bit of an adjustment on him, and then that's when it started to go downhill a little bit. But ultimately, like, this was all about Marlon Yant. Yes, sure. Gabi Garcia was really good, as you said. 76% hitting percentage is pretty damn nasty, but he was getting a lot of those open looks just because of how automatic Marlon Yant is. And once again, we're seeing Ciniese really, really effective. Only getting 9 attempts, but 6 for 9, pretty good out there, and 3 blocks.
3 blocks. Yep, absolutely. And I am now extremely worried about Trentino. We've talked about the bridesmaid thing, dude. We've talked about it.
Okay.
This is a golden opportunity for them to win their first Scudetto in, I think, 6 or 7 years. They had They just had a chance on the road without Lube's maybe most important player in the lineup, and they got 3-1. And now they're going to go back at home with all the pressure in the world tomorrow night. Match 5, by the way, tomorrow, Wednesday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Absolute must watch, to say the least. All the pressure in the world is on Trentino right now. I think that Lube is kind of playing with house money. I think that everybody thought that they were going to lose match 4. This is kind of like the Lube now is like Milano in the first round. They hung in there. They clawed their way back into that series against Perugia. They won a couple games they weren't supposed to, and they went into game 5 when Milano was not feeling the pressure Perugia was. I think this is not nearly to the same magnitude, but I think it's kind of similar. Trentino at home, that is going to be a very energetic crowd, but there's going to be a nervous energy about that place because the opportunity presented before that club. And if they came up short in the finals again, I'm not sure what we're going to be talking about on next week's show.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't won a championship Scudetto since 2015. And you're
second
right.
in the Champions League 2 years in a row. Like they did, that one major trophy has just eluded them. They've been so close. This was the best opportunity they've had in years.
I mean, they haven't even been in the Scudetto final since 2017, right?
But last year they were up 2-0 on Lube in the semis and got reverse swept in the series. That was terrible.
Yeah. I think you're right, though. I think all the pressure is on Trentino right now. And Lube, because we talked about them since the beginning of the season. We were talking about how they weren't going to be in this situation, right? How they weren't going to be in this position.
Right. Yeah, there was no way, given what happened in the offseason.
Given what happened in the offseason and how iffy they looked. But I think, once again, it just goes down to a testament of how good this club is and how good of a coach Blanghini is and how good these athletes are as well, too. And just how they've been able to come together. But if Trentino can come in, and I think it's a bit of a stretch to think that Yant's going to have another performance like he has,
yes,
like he did, because someone is going to need to step up, right? Someone needs to step up and have a fantastic athletic game where they're just putting out numbers and no one can touch them. Otherwise, like, their team play isn't going to be able to do it. Like they need a fantastic offensive performance from someone, and they need to do it from the baseline again, right? That's when they're the best. That's when they're the most lethal. Because without that, you're not putting Trentino in a bad position. And if you're allowed them to be in system, that's when they start hurting you, because that's when they can start releasing the middles, and it just opens up their offense from there.
Well, speaking of the Trentino middles, this was the first match in the series where I think we legitimately noticed Srećko Licinac's absence.
Yes.
Wout de Heer was not good in this match. He's been very good as the third middle for Trentino the last 2 years, and he's been good in this series. Match 4, he was not. He got put in a blender by Luciano De Cecco setting the offense. So, and he wasn't very good on offense either. So keep that in mind.
0% efficiency.
Right. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind tomorrow. No Licinat. See if that has a big effect.
Do we know about the status of Zaitsev for this one? That's the big question for me. And if he is healthy, do you go back to him? That's the other question.
You do,
right?
You do for sure, because of what we saw on the opposite position with having to play 2 guys. You got a great performance out of Gabby Garcia off the bench, but same thing goes with Marlon Yant, like you said. You can't rely on 15 for 23 and 13 for 17. Like, you're not going to get those games every time. You can't rely on that. If you have Zaitsev, play him. He's too important. The way that they've mixed up the passing, attacking, those different responsibilities with Zaitsev and Nikolov has worked so well that if Zaitsev can go, put him in. But I'm not convinced that he can. I think even with 5 days off, which is insane that they've waited so long to play this 5th match, by the way, it doesn't make any sense. Even with that much time off, whatever's going on with Zaitsev hitting shoulder, I would be surprised if he played tomorrow.
We're getting confirmation in this chat here that he won't be playing.
Okay.
So that's one thing there for Lube. And you're right. Like, that's just a ginormous time off. You played the last game on Friday. My assumption was that they're going to be playing that last game on Friday to then finish up the series on Sunday.
I was thinking Monday or today at the very
almost
latest.
A week.
Crazy.
Why? What's going on? Like, it's just volleyball. Come on, let's figure it out here. So I don't know. Italians, let us know. Is there anything going on in Italy that would prevent, like, you don't want to go up against? Is there soccer or something on, or sorry, football? If going on right now, let us know in the chat, okay? Because yeah, it's just a little bit ridiculous. But hey, Game 5 going down tomorrow. It's definitely a must watch.
Who's your pick? Who's your pick, Everett? What do you got?
I think Trentino is going to break the curse. I really do. They've done a really good job at bouncing back and just getting back into the swing of things this playoffs. So yeah, I think that Trentino but I think Trentino has a good shot of taking it, especially at home. And I'm trying to look right now.
I'm going to go against that, and I'm going to pick Lube just because it would be chaotic. Like, imagine going into this season, you have Perugia that goes 22-0. They build the greatest roster maybe ever assembled. Lube gets the 4 seed. We're talking about them all year as being a shell of their former selves. And what if this, of all years, is the year they win and they go 4 Scudettos in a row? Of all years, I think it would just be hilarious. I think it would be the perfect ending to a completely chaotic SuperLega playoffs. And so I'm going to go ahead and pick Lube because I think it would be funny.
All right. Well, should be a good one to watch.
Well, Everett, we are not done talking about the Italian Men's League. We get one more opportunity this season to clown on Perugia. The 5th place match, that stupid 5th place extended playoff that they do after the quarterfinals are over. I hate that they do this, but it culminated in Monza versus Perugia for 5th place and for a spot in the Challenge Cup. Now, there's a chance that Monza, who beat Perugia in 5, there's a chance that they get pushed up to CEV Cup and Perugia does get a Challenge Cup spot. But if I'm Perugia, I don't even want to play Challenge Cup at this point. To go 22-0 in the regular season and finish 6th in the playoffs is borderline hilarious.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, they were 29-0 before losing to Piacenza in the semifinals of the Italian Cup, and just have crumbled there since they're truly like one of the biggest breakdowns we've seen ever in professional volleyball.
Huge
like,
collapse.
Massive collapse. There's 2 things that I love about this match in particular. First and foremost, you know I gotta put him on. Stephen Marr led the match in this one, 21 points. He was 17 for 33. Gotta love the boy from Aurora getting the job done. Can't wait to see him in a Maple Volley's uniform in Ottawa in a couple of weeks. But the other thing that I love is that Kamil Rychlicki led scoring for Perugia and was really one of the only good ones out there. Hit going 20 for 33, 61% hitting percentage because his contract has not been renewed for next season.
They posted Perugia posted goodbye Kamil Rychlicki. Thank you for your service. Like he's out. He's out. They didn't take up. He had a 2+1. He had the option. They didn't pick up the option. They're bringing in Ben Tara for some reason from the PlusLiga. I mean, Ben Tara is really good. I actually love that move.
He is really good, but he's not battle tested. You're talking about a guy who's led the scoring or like one of the top scorers in the PlusLiga for the past few seasons, but has only made the playoffs this year. Right, hasn't played Champions League, doesn't play like he plays for Tunisia, so never plays internationally.
Not for long.
Okay, well, where's he going again?
He's going to go be Polish, which is confusing as to why he's leaving the PlusLiga to come to the SuperLega in theory. But we're not here to talk about Ben Tara. I think that Rychlicki is overrated, and I always have.
Oh, I mean, he's won Scudettos. He's been there. He's done it. Why are you getting rid of a player who's been there and he's done it on multiple occasions?
Because he never, ever delivered this entire year except in a 5th place match. He got benched for Herrera in every key situation.
On a regular basis.
If you look at the
stats, he was more efficient. He was more efficient. He has less errors and had more kills than Herrera. Like he was one of their top scorers.
Situational, Everett.
He was one of their top scorers all year.
Great.
But he's not like you have Semeniuk, you have Leon, you have other guys, right? So to me, it's just I love the fact that he went out and scored like this because that to me is Kamil Rychlicki. That's how he has been time and time again. And I think it's
overrated.
I mean, we're gonna have to see like what's up with Ben Tara then. Like once again, he is not at all. He has no experience in big situations, and they're gonna put him on the right side going into when they want to win a Champions League, when they want to win a Scudetto, when they've had this 5 years.
They're not playing Champions League. Remember?
Oh, you're right.
I actually kind of like that move because there's less mouths to feed, like, and there's less egos to feed in that sense. But sayonara, Kamil Rykliski. I'm curious to see where he goes, where his career goes. But it was funny to kind
He's
of
going
see
to
him.
Trentino.
That's what I've heard. It was kind of funny to see him
confirmed on
see him
Volleybox.
drop a banger and on his way out the door. But it's just been so funny to clown on Perugia for the past 3 weeks. It's just hilarious. Like they're such a disaster. Their ownership is just crumbling. Their franchise needs to be burned to the ground and resurrected from the ashes, because you cannot go 22-0 in the regular season and not even finish fifth. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. They're tying their worst finish ever. Their first year in SuperLega back in 2013, they finished fifth or sixth, and they're tying that result. Ever since then, they've finished in the top 4 or higher. So a massive breakdown. And to me, like, this has to be organizational. Like, you've gone through how many coaches, you've gone through how many athletes, and your best year was back in 2017, 2018, before you had the best player in the world.
Yep.
There's so many stories, and there's so many things to talk about this Perugia team. But you're right; it's fantastic to clown them once again. I would expect to see Monza bumped up to the CEV Cup, just like we saw Piacenza had it done this past year. And you love to see it, right?
Also, another one bites the dust as far as Perugia coaches go. Happy trails to Andrea Anastasi. His contract has not been renewed. That franchise goes through head coaches like nothing I've ever seen in my life. It's really fun.
4 and 5 years.
Really
four and 5 years. Next year will be their fifth in 6 years. It's looking like it's going to be Lorenzetti, but the question is, can Lorenzetti coach this team the way he wants to coach it, or is he going to have
the way Circi wants it to be coached?
Yeah, exactly. Is he going to have Gino Circi just breathing down his neck? And yeah, I mean, there's so many things to talk about. I'm actually making a video on all of this right now. But yeah, once again, Perugia just can't get the job done this season. Like such a
Hilarious.
180 from the way they started it. Rob, it wasn't even 3 months ago that we were talking about them winning the Infinity Gauntlet and running the table.
Yep. Congratulations though to Monza, Stephen Marr, Arthur Schwartz, and their seasons with a W. That's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be very excited to see what happens with Monza next year with a healthy Cachopa. I know some other athletes who are going to Monza that I can't really speak about. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
All right. Before we move on, Everett, it is time for 2 of our favorite things to talk about. The first is that volleyball.store. Everett's got that beautiful 9x9 squared t-shirt on right now. You can head over to that volleyball.store, check out all the cool stuff, and use the code SPICY, as in the spicy hot pepper that we love so much on this show, for 15% off.
Yep, absolutely. Go check it out, Rob. We need to get you some of the squared gear before we go to Ottawa.
Yeah, we got to get some before VNL. That will absolutely be arranged.
Yep, 100%.
Also, a plug for the Volleyball Source Discord. I think we always bring it up, but we need you all to join the Volleyball Source Discord. The link is in the description, but it is the best online chat community in the world by far for volleyball. And with national team season coming up, people's national team pride is going to come even more to the surface. They're going to be even more funny to see people talk trash in the FIVB channel during VNL. It's going to be great.
Yeah, we're at 1150 members right now in the Discord, so that's pretty awesome. So make sure you come join that. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch me chirp Ronnie after Canada beats Cuba in the first match of the VNL in Ottawa this year, especially because they won't have any Simone. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. And then also, this is our time to ask you to give us a nice little like. Give us a nice little thumbs up on that video. I don't think we hit 81 on the last video. But
81 square meters of the best volleyball content. We want 81 likes per episode. Make it happen.
Exactly.
Come on now.
Yeah. So give us that like, show us you like the show. And leave a little comment too. We love to know what you think, especially now that we're heading into national team season. Let us know in the comments what do you want us to talk about moving forward, because we're going to do a lot of previewing coming up the next little bit. VNL getting ready. It's a big summer with the Olympic qualifiers. Of course, you've got European and Orsika championships and all of that. So it's going to be a big summer for international volleyball. So we want to hear from you guys what you want to hear from us, what you want us to talk about.
Yeah, put it in the comments after the live stream is over so that we can go back and look at them. Another thing that you should comment after the YouTube stream is over is where's Daddy? It's time for everybody's favorite segment. Somewhere in this episode, Daddy Stankovic is hidden. If you're unfamiliar, I love Dragan Stankovic so much. He is Daddy. If you wonder, like, why do I love Dragan Stankovic so much? The answer is, like, just look at him. I mean, come on. Just look at him. He looks like John Mayer, and he's a boss volleyball player, and he's the best. So somewhere in this episode, Daddy Stankovic is hidden. If you find him, you comment after the stream is over, the timestamp of where he is, and you get a shout out in next week's show. So on last week's show, as we were celebrating the Berlin Recycling Volleys winning the Bundesliga, you see somebody's kid in the celebration photo on the bottom right. Looks a little bit different. That's because there's Daddy Stankovic hidden in the bottom right of that photo there. So I noticed that last week during the show, there were a bunch of people that saw it right away. There was a mad dash in the comments to try and be first. I think our friend Kiro Neri was the first to call it out. Our friend John the Master 74 was right behind him. So good job finding Daddy. I have placed him somewhere a little more difficult in this episode. And I'm not going to tell you if he's already showed up or if he will show up in the second half of the show, but Daddy Stankovic is somewhere. You know the drill by now. Comment the timestamp as soon as the show is over.
Yeah, absolutely. It's too bad. It's too pixelated on our back end for me to see it right now. So I'm gonna have to wait until the end of the episode for you to tell me. Ronnie, real quick, are you gonna come and do a nice little Cuba preview for us for VNL?
No, we don't want that because that video would be 7.5 hours long.
Well, we're not going to do it in the 9x9. We'll do it on its own. He can drink a bottle of wine again,
and that video will still be 7.5 hours long. But if that's what the people want to hear, I'm always down to have Ronnie Cuban Spike on the channel. But yeah, lots of VNL coverage coming up. But before that, we still got more club volleyball to talk about. Everett, we've got to talk about the PlusLiga. What a beatdown!
Oh my God.
An absolute beatdown laid upon Zaksa by Jastrzębski Węgiel. Congratulations to them on winning their second PlusLiga title in 3 years. 3-0, 3-1, 3-0 to win the final. That third match was not even close. Not even close.
No, it was an absolute beatdown. And you can tell that JSW just gained that confidence and gained that momentum as the series went on. Once again, we talked about it at the beginning of this series that there was a few players who had to be fantastic. First and foremost, Stéphane Boyer. I mean, that's exactly what he was. He was unreal in this one, 10 for 18 with 3 blocks and 2 aces for 15 points. Absolutely massive. Thomas Fornal I still think he was the best player in this series. 5 for 9 with no aces. With no errors and a block and an ace. So he was unreal, but just truly JSW was just on another level. They were clicking it. They were going for it. Toniutti was just slinging the ball for a fantastic offense. 53% efficiency in this one for JSW. Amazing. And the other side of the net, Zaksa just not looking good. Looking good.
Negative efficiency for both Bednorz and Schlifka. I mean, these set scores, 25, 15, 16, 13 in an elimination game. Like that is not even close.
11% efficiency for Zaksa in this match. That is terrible. They got blocked like 15 times.
11. 11 stuff
11
blocks.
Times.
Yeah, the Polish blocking stats are a little confusing. They have a column for like block touches, but yeah, 11 blocks. It's
15 blocks, 11 touches.
I think it's the other way around. Either way, maybe you're right. It is 15. 15 blocks in 3 sets is absurd. Either way, I think that Jastrzębski just played a perfect series. Now, Zaksa didn't play well, but I don't think anybody in the world was beating Jastrzębski in these 3 games the way that they played. Like we said, Boyer was going to have to be one of the best players on the court. He was going to have to minimize his errors. He did. He was serving the ball, he was blocking the ball, and he was hitting over the top of people. And then the outside duo, Fornal and Cleveno, were just awesome. They were awesome. Fornal in particular, but Cleveno in game 3 there, 10 for 18, 44% efficiency, and passed the ball lights out. It was amazing. And I know Yuri Glatter was the MVP. He contributed a lot in the middle. They served well enough that Toniuti's small size in the block wasn't a weakness. It was literally the perfect series for Jastrzębski. But as these two teams prepare to play each other again in a Champions League final this Sunday. I'm curious about the effects of 10 days off on like sort of the momentum of the series. 10 days off, totally different situation, not playing in Poland, playing on a neutral site. I'm fascinated to see that matchup again with Zaksa, who just got their brains beaten in, but they are the two-time defending Champions League champions.
That's a big thing to me. I really think. I think that when you're looking at how good Zaksa's been in the Champions League, because we've seen them have poor performances in the PlusLiga and then turn around and be dominant in the Champions League. And this is a team that's won the past two. They know what it feels like to be in the finals. Whereas JSW, they haven't really done that. They haven't been to the finals, maybe ever. No, I don't think they've ever been.
Yeah.
This group hasn't been. Of course, Tonyuti has been. I think that's about it. So I think once you get there, it's a much different beast than playing at home. In a familiar territory. Like CEV protocol is going to be different than the PlusLiga protocol. I think there's all these little things that are going to make it different and are maybe going to even the playing field. Otherwise, you would have to say that JSW is going to run away with this one based off of what we just saw. However, we saw Zaksa really just run over JSW through the end of the season, and now it was a little bit different. So it was absolutely bonkers. I couldn't have predicted it, but I loved watching JSW and the way they were playing. You could tell that they were just playing freely, and they were so free and just
so much confidence.
Just so much confidence. You can tell what happens when you keep Boyer out of the clubs, and he gets a good night's sleep. It's just a world of difference. So I'm excited to see them in the Champions League finals, just because I'm really excited if to see if they're up to the task, right? But ultimately, just like we talked about on the women's side with Turkey, are they the best league in the world? That conversation has to be happening way more so on the men's side, right? Way more so on the men's side, considering the PlusLiga has won 3 Champions Leagues in a row now, and now it could be potentially from another team. Like, that's pretty crazy. And with the fact that they're doing it with less foreigners on their team as well, there's no teams in the PlusLiga that are stacking up their teams like Perugia with just so many foreigners. Not even close.
And the consistency year to year with their rosters is way more than the Italian league.
Way more. So truly, like right now, to me, I think the PlusLiga might be surpassing the SuperLega.
Not that crazy of a take, especially because like the argument with on the women's side, the Turkish league, the bad teams are really bad. The bad teams in Poland aren't even that bad. Like they're no worse than the bad teams in Italy, with the exception of Ravenna last year. Like they really can go toe to toe in every area. I do think that the PlusLiga does a better job with media and coverage.
100%.
They had more teams this year. They played too many matches, in my opinion, but they do an amazing job producing all their events. I was just going back through it, Everett. Zaksa and Jastrzębski now this year have played 7 times. They're about to play for an 8th time. 3 in the PlusLiga final, 2 in the regular season, the Cup final, and the Super Cup final. The Jastrzębski won the Super Cup. Zaksa won the Cup. They split in the regular season. And Jastrzębski, as we talked about, just kicked the crap out of him 3-0 in the PlusLiga final. But this has been one of the low key best rivalries in volleyball the last 3 years.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's no doubt about it. And when you look at it one way, like Zaksa's kind of dominated, but now this is 2 PlusLiga championships in 3 years for JSW. And if they could add the Champions League to that, like that might switch. And I absolutely love it. You know what? I just wish we could watch more PlusLiga volleyball in English.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing that I wish we could watch.
100% agree. I was just watching the game today. Resovia beat Zavierce 3-0 in the third place series in the 5th game of that. So that was good series too. So Resovia will play Champions League next year. My boy TJ DeFalco was tremendous. But I just love watching those games. They do such a good job with the broadcast, and I don't even speak Polish. Like, I can only imagine how much more I would like that if they put English commentators on that league the way that volleyball world has done with the Italian league. So Maybe one day we can dream. We will make our picks for the Champions League final in just a minute when we talk about the women's as well. So let's move on, Everett, across more Europe. There are 5 other trophies that were given out this week that we do need to talk about a little bit. I think we should start with the Turkish Men's League.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
More so the last couple months, I've actually been watching a decent amount of the Turkish Men's League because it's for free on YouTube, and I've really liked Halkbank with 2 Americans, and Mike Amat and Thomas Jeschke. This final series with Halkbank versus Ziraat Bank was awesome.
Electric.
Great final series, but it is Ziraat Bank who wins the series 3-2. They win their 3rd consecutive title in the Efeler Ligi. They beat Halkbank 3-1 yesterday for the title. Very, very good match. Wouter Termat. Enough said. How about
Enough said. Wouter Termat is just absolutely unreal. And I mean, this is a guy who we haven't really seen. We've talked about it before. We don't really get to see on the international stages just because he doesn't really play for the Dutch because he's got Namir in front of him. But this one, I think this is really the first time that they've been head to head, and he showed up to play. And it was awesome to see. Old man Wantarena, he woke up.
Great.
He was very, very good. 18 points in that final. Martin Antanasov, who I know both you and I have been iffy at times, was really, really good through in this final match too. So yeah, just big ups. I was expecting Halkbank to run away with it, but their team, the way they played later in the playoffs, it was really just all Namir and Jeschke. I really wish we could have seen Nicolas Bruno more, but it's also tough to take off Jeschke with how well he was playing. You know, he hit 68%. He was passing unreal. He was serving well. He was blocking well. So it's tough to take him off, but with the foreigner limit there, you couldn't really get Bruno in. And Bruno is really one of those emotional players that you need. You know, he's the captain. You needed to get him in there somehow, and they just couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, they tried a couple times to put the backup setter in, Aslan Ekşi for Mike Amaa, and so that they can put Bruno in on the left. But Bruno's a spiritual leader. He's a fireball of a player, but in terms of production, he's not going to get you enough to put you over the hump of a team like Ziraat Bank, who played so well on the wings. Like on paper, sure, Namir and Jeschke are better than anyone on Ziraat Bank's entire team, especially with the season that Thomas Jeschke had since coming in halfway through. I can't think of a match where he didn't hit above 50% efficiency. He was just amazing. This one too, 19 for 28. He was just spectacular. But it wasn't quite enough. I think one of the big areas was the middle. Ziraat Bank owned Halkbank in the middle. I thought Bulbul and Gunesh were both terrific, and they really made a big difference. Don't think middles aren't important.
No, 100%. Even if you're not in the double digits, if you're able to run your middle at timely times, it makes such a difference. And you're right. I just don't think that the skill, and like Mert Matic, he's all right. He was 2 for 4. But you need to give it a little bit more. So maybe we're going to have to, I hate to say it, but maybe we put that one a little bit on Mike Amaa, just a little bit. Maybe he'll be in Ottawa if he chooses to play for the national team this year. But
he is on the VNL roster, which is great. But a really, really good season. A big part of carrying Halkbank to a Champions League semifinal, but not that good of a series in the final, gotta say.
No, I agree. And I wonder too, like, this is just a complete, like, just a shot in the dark, but I was watching an Out of System podcast recently, and Gage and Joe are together, and like, yo, we're in Northern California, and Ma's like, yeah, I know, I can't wait to be there with you guys. I can't wait to be back home.
He's ready.
I wonder if it's just been a bit of a long season for him, and he's ready to get out of there.
That's fair. It's been a long season for everyone.
Also, Wouter Termat is on the Dutch roster for VNL. He is on the 30-man roster.
The Dutch should give Namir at least 1, maybe 2 weeks off. Like,
absolutely,
they don't lose that much if you start Termat. Like, clearly he can carry a big offensive load for a team. Save Namir. That man needs an off season, maybe more than anybody on the planet. Save him for a week or two.
And especially when you have a scoring machine like Wouter Termat, like, you're not losing anything at all. Right, by putting in Termat in there. So let's see if that Stu's Piazza can figure things out.
Well, we've wondered that before with varying success. So congratulations to Ziraat Bank. That was a little unexpected. Just yet another unexpected championship series that was pretty electric. Speaking of electric championship series, Tours comes back from down 0-3 in the first match to win 3-0 and win a golden set 15-10 over Chaumont at home to win the LNV. And to win your entire season championship in a golden set must be the best feeling ever. So congrats to Tours, their first title since winning it back-to-back in 2018 and 19.
It's the only thing in volleyball that we have akin to overtime.
Shootout or like legitimate overtime, yeah.
Like a legitimate overtime, like that's one of the things I love about hockey playoffs so much, like those sudden death overtimes. And you bet your ass that every Canadian kid grows up playing on the driveway, talking about it's game 7, you're in overtime and scoring that winning goal. So winning that golden set to me is very much the same thing. But Tours, you know what, Chaumont did come out nicely to win game number 1, but Tours has been the best team this year in France all season long mostly, and they dominated in this one. 14 blocks, 6 errors. They were 62% attacking. They were just absolutely fantastic. You look at their points totals, they had 3 different guys in double digits. And so, yeah, big ups to Tours. I think both of these teams will be playing in Champions League next year.
Good, as they should. And we got 2 Americans, Pat Gassman, Mike Marshman on Chaumont. I know they're bummed to have come up just short, but I hope that they both stick around to be able to play a little Champions League next year.
Yeah, absolutely. But those French teams are always a little interesting, right? Like how often have we seen, like there's been that French team curse where you're really good one year and then you're
horrible.
Terrible the next year.
Yeah, Caen 2 years ago. That was brutal.
Caen was 2 years ago. They're in the B League now, right? And of course you had Montpellier who won the league last year, started off terribly. They did end up making it to the playoffs, but
barely.
Still it was terrible. Tours is but Tours has consistently been, I think once again, if you're talking about good organizations, I think Tours to me has to be the best organization in all of French volleyball.
They're the most consistent. I mean, I remember the first time I really watched them the last couple of years was last year in the CEV Cup when they beat Modena and then they beat Skrabelchitov, and that home crowd that they had blew me away. It blew me away. I really didn't know that the French league had any arenas that showed up like that, and I was very impressed. So now they're good. Now they're going to do it for Champions League again, and hopefully they can add 1 or 2 really good foreign pieces this offseason.
Yeah, 7 titles for Tours since 2010 when they won their first one.
Wow.
So to me, like they've hands down been the best team in the French league over the past decade or more.
Yep. And speaking of the French league, another title handed out on the women's side. Volero Le Cannet wins the LNV 2-0 in the final over Mulhouse, and it's their second championship in a row. We talked about looking at a decent amount in Champions League because they had a bunch of Russians on the team. But if they're keeping that roster intact, no reason to think they can't do some damage in Champions League again next year.
Yeah, 100%. This is a little bit interesting though because Le Cannet didn't have that great of a regular season.
Right. They did not.
When you look at it, they were 6th in the regular season, 16-10. Overall, so to come from 6th all the way to win, I think that's a pretty big gap to pick up. So great job there by Volero Le Cannet to pick up another they won last year, right?
Yeah, second in a row.
Their second in a row.
Yep, love to see it. Speaking of hardware, got more to hand out. Congratulations to Stuttgart on winning the women's Bundesliga, 3-1 in the series over Potsdam. They win match 4, 3-1 for their second title in a row and 3 of the last 4. A couple Americans on that team, which is awesome.
Yeah, Crystal Rivers, she's been there for a while now. We've seen her do it at the Champions League level. Love to see her getting that dub. A little sad for me. Kim Robitaille was the backup setter on the other side of the net for Potsdam, but big ups to her and the rest of their team. I mean, they beat Vakifbank this year, so that should be a good win in itself.
Yep, and Simone Lee on that team as well. She's actually on the VNL roster, like the 30-person women's VNL roster for the States, which is great. So congratulations to Stuttgart. Also, congratulations to Łódź for winning the Polish, the Toruń Liga, the Polish Women's League. They beat Rzeszów 3-1 in the final series, 15-13 in the 5th to win the championship, which is pretty incredible. And they persevered through Zuzana Gorecka's torn ACL, which really sucks. The Polish national team was expecting good summer out of her on the outside, but they persevered through that to win their first title since 2019.
Yeah, I'm really feeling for Rejov in this one, because that's 4 straight second place finishes
That
for them.
sucks.
And then if you even go back, they've been in the top 3 now 6 times since 2017. 2/3, 4 seconds, still can't get it done. Kemik has won how many?
Yeah, they've won like 9. Hemik Police has won like 9 out of the last 10 or something insane. So when they got knocked out in
8
the
out of the last
quarterfinal,
9.
yeah, that's
8.
it.
So that Rejov and Stefan Antiga were just like, this is our chance, unable to get it done. But Lodz, who's the only team to break up Kemik's run there, getting it done. So I think you're starting to see a little bit more competition in the Torun Liga as well, starting to follow the PlusLiga.
Yeah, I like that too. So shout outs to Woods. They will play Champions League next year again. And so that's it for European titles handed out, Everett. I think it's time to spend some time previewing the last matches of the club volleyball season. It is finally time. We haven't talked about Champions League in like a month because they wait so long to play it. But it is finally time this Sunday. The Women's Champions League final in Turin, Italy, 11:30 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. Vakifbank versus Eczacıbaşı, followed by the men's final, same gym, same place, same day, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. Let's start with the women's side, Everett. We have talked about the Turkish Women's League a decent amount this episode already, but give me a quick preview and your pick for Vakifbank versus Eczacıbaşı.
Well, I think this one's a really interesting matchup, right? Because we haven't really seen it. There's been a lot of Fenerbahçe versus Vakifbank, and of course we just saw Jastrzębski versus Fenerbahçe, but we haven't really seen, other than the regular season, we haven't really seen these two teams play all that much. I do think that Vakifbank may have a bit of an advantage because they do have a little bit more time off. They might be more rested, but on the flip side, they might be a little bit more rusty. Vakifbank is also used to being in these big situations, and getting ready to play these matches. Like, they won it last year. They won the World Club Championships last year as well. So, they're used to playing in these big matches. And I wasn't too impressed with Eczacıbaşı down the stretch.
No,
I just think that they lacked that competition, because it just hasn't been great, to tell you the truth. And I don't know. I'm very, very questionable about them. But this is also just a one-game scenario, right? And when you have an athlete like Tijana Boskovic on your team who can just go out and ball out for one game, that's all she needs. She probably won't be. I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't play Champions or VNL again this year. How is that going to look? So ultimately, I think my pick, it has to be Vakifbank in this one. I even though Eczacıbaşı has dominated all season long, I think Vakifbank just has that experience, and I think they're chomping at the bit a little bit. They feel like they're owed one after falling to Fenerbahçe the way they did in the semifinals.
I agree with you. I also like Vakifbank. I think the factor of Gabi is an irreplaceable advantage that they have, because like position for position, they're actually kind of similar. Like Vakifbank and Eczacıbaşı neither of them are similar at all to Fenerbahçe, who just rolled through both of them the last couple of weeks. But I do think they are kind of similar to one another. They've both got world-class opposites. They're both very good in the middle. In general, I think Vakifbank is even a little bit better, and they're going to get to play Çako Bogu with no foreigner limit. I mean, historically, Maya Onjanovic has been a better setter than Cansu Özbay, but recently, I think that's a huge question mark. I'm curious to see how short Onjanovic's leash is. But where the biggest difference is the outside hitter position. Eczacıbaşı's outsides, Voronkova and usually Baladin, not even close to the level of Gabi and Karabayama, the American who's had an amazing second half of the season. So I like Vakifbank as well. The Champions League final experience, I think, is really, really valuable, and I think it's going to show up big.
Yeah, Eczacıbaşı 2-0 over Vakifbank in the regular season, but Vakifbank did beat Eczacıbaşı 3-0 at the World Club Championships back in December. So
that's the regular season versus the big moments. There is a big difference. Some teams are built for it and some aren't. Like Eczacıbaşı went 20-something-0, 26-0 the regular season and got stomped 3-0 in the final. Like I'm not convinced that they're made for a moment quite like this, but It is a huge rebound opportunity for Tijana Bošković after a bad game last time out against Fenerbahçe. And I can't remember the last time I saw her have 2 bad games in a row.
I think it's a bigger bounce back game for Maya. Like, I think
Yeah.
her setting, it was way worse than, at the end of the day, Bošković is just getting what she gets, and Maya has continued. I mean, there was a time a couple years ago when Vakif Bank just had Bošković and not really around them, and I was watching them in Champions League, and I was like, man, Maya might be the best setter in the world. The way she runs her middles, the way she runs this offense.
She played for Vakif Bank just 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, this is when she was it? No, I think she was with the Jastrzębski at the time.
Last year, yeah, but like in the Champions League final 2 years ago, that Vakif lost to Conegliano when Egonu was on Conegliano. It was Unjanovic setting Vakif Bank, which was interesting.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I don't know. Recently, like it just hasn't been working for me. I wonder if watching Serbia succeed as much as they have without her has hurt her ego a little bit.
Could be. And Serbia has succeeded a lot without her. And I'm still convinced that Elif Şahin is the better setter choice in this particular situation for Eczacıbaşı. So we'll see how short that leash is. I've got Vakif Bank 3-1.
3-1. All right. Fair enough. I think it's going to be a sloppy game on either side. So I'm going Vakif Bank 3-2.
Okay, sure. Nothing like a 5-setter in the Champions League final. That would be great. We'll see what happens in this one as well. We talked about this series already. Jastrzębski versus Zaksa, all Polish game. Jastrzębski stomped them 3-0 in the PlusLiga final, but it'll have been 10 days since then. We talked about these matchups already. I think all we have to do is give our picks. Everett, what do you think?
Ooh, this one's going to be tough, but I think I'm going to go against the grain here and go with Zaksa. I really think that the way that they've played in the Champions League this season, and this is something we've seen in the Champions League before. I remember it was Gdansk a few years ago where they didn't even make the playoffs in the PlusLiga and yet made the semifinals of the Champions League. You see it in soccer as well, too, where there's one team that just blows up nicely in the Champions League, and they just feel way more comfortable in that competition. I have a good feeling about Zaksa in this one. But I think it's going to be a really good game. I think this is two teams that are going to go toe to toe. To me, it really happens on it really comes down to how much partying Stéphane Boyer has done over the past week or so.
I honestly think this could go either way. And for how dominant, straight up dominant Jastrzębski was in that PlusLiga final series, it is remarkable that I think we're both in agreement that this is going to be a really good match, because the last match we saw these two teams play was as lopsided as any match all year long. But I really think that Zaksa's experience in Champions League situations is a big deal. They've won 2 of these in a row. They went through an all-time gauntlet this year to even get to this point. They beat Trentino, they beat Perugia, both in 2-match series, and here they are with a chance for a three-peat, which would be just an all-time great achievement. Like, I know Trentino did that in the late, 2009 to 2011. Kazan won 4 in a row, 15 to 18. But this is a legacy cementing opportunity for this entire Zaksa organization. But I've got Jastrzębski. I think it's their turn. I think the way that they dominated, the blueprint that they now have, it will only come down to executing the exact same thing they did in the PlusLiga final, and they mopped the floor with Zaksa in that series. I like Stéphane Boyer. I like Trevor Clevenot. I really like Tomáš Fornal. I think this is Jastrzębski's turn. I think it is.
I think that there's a big chip on Zaksa's shoulder right now.
There has to be.
I think they're embarrassed. I think they're frustrated. I think they're upset. And there's only one spot to take it out on. And then even better, it's that team that just embarrassed them, right?
Not very often do you get a chance for retribution immediately after getting embarrassed like that.
Especially in like the league, this never happens. Never. This never ever happens. So I think that Zaksa, and they have one match to prepare, right? They have one match to get everything ready. And I think that much in the same way how ready they were for Perugia in the semifinals of the Champions League, they're going to be ready for JSW in the finals on Saturday or Sunday? What day?
Sunday.
It's on Saturday.
Sunday.
Saturday.
No.
I'm looking at it on Sports Stats right now.
20th?
Yes.
Oh no, it is on Saturday. No way. I thought for sure it was on Sunday. Okay, that's big. Okay, Saturday. Set your calendars. You have plans. You have plans this Saturday. This game will be on YouTube on the CEV as long as you pay them. It's usually like $5 USD for
something like that. Yeah,
for the membership. And the YouTube way to watch is way better than Eurovolley TV. Do not waste your money. Do not waste your money on Eurovolley TV. That is a terrible platform. Watch on YouTube for a couple bucks. This will be two of the best volleyball matches all year. Hopefully they live up to the hype. But yeah, I'm glad you caught that they're Saturday. I really had that they were on Sunday in my head.
Imagine you're just like at the park playing some grass threes, and then all of a sudden the Discord is blowing up. Like, where's Rob? Where's Rob? I unfortunately have to work at like 4 on Saturday, so hopefully it's a quick one. But I might just go to my bar and just sit and watch it on my phone or something while waiting to work. It's
going to be awesome. Get in the Discord. I'm sure we'll be popping off about it, and we'll put the links there for you if you can't find it. But it'll be worth whatever couple dollars it costs to watch these games. Will be worth it, I promise. And we'll talk about them both on next week's show.
I mean, if they were smart, they would just put it for free. Like you want as many people to watch it, but hey, this is volleyball we're talking about. Boomers, trench coats. You know,
they kind of do the opposite of what I would say is logical. And like the more important the game, the less likely they are to make it public, which I don't really love. And which is actually kind of a good transition to this, as we talk about this past weekend's VLA Cup tournament. The VLA,
it's coming, Rob. It's coming.
We use the VLA, we use the YouTube channel membership too to do the same thing. But every time there's a final of a tournament, we're gonna put it public. Like that's what everybody wants to watch. We're gonna put it public. So the VLA Cup this past weekend was a big deal for American volleyball. Just an enormous success. 36 teams. 28 men's teams in Chicago and 8 women's teams for the first time ever. So on the men's side, congratulations to the Las Vegas Team NV going 15-0 in sets to win the tournament. They beat Emiola, their sort of sister squad. They're under the same management. They beat them 3-0 in the final. Really, really good ball. Team NV came up just short. They lost in the finals of the West and the Central Division Cups this year, so they are able to win the big one. And on the women's side, for the first time ever, we get women's volleyball on the VLA stage, which was great. The Midwest Magic, they're out of Milwaukee, but they do kind of represent the whole Midwestern United States. They beat the Northeast Force out of Connecticut 3-1 to win the VLA Cup, the first women's title in VLA history. So huge success for American volleyball. Our YouTube numbers were unbelievable. So I thought the level of ball was great, even on the women's side, which was like kind of unpredictable. We didn't know what to expect going in, but there was some good ball played by everybody in that gym. So congratulations to these two teams.
Yeah, absolutely unreal. I mean, Team NV is just basically Team Ruckus. I didn't know Emiola was basically under the same ownership as well.
Yeah, they are.
So, Rob, you told me on the weekend that if I asked you this, you're going to shut off the show. But like, when are you guys gonna like sit down with those owners? You have the two best teams who are still sitting in Tier 1. They have no intention of moving up to. They're still sitting in Tier 2. They have no intention of moving up to Tier 1. Does it just not make your product better if they do move up to Tier 1 and become one of the premier teams in the league?
Nope. I think it's better this way.
How?
Legitimately.
How?
I think it's better this way.
It's better this way?
Because it proves the Tier 2 concept. You can do whatever you want in the Tier 2 division of the VLA. It is literally an open registration division. You can make your own schedule. The roster flexibility, there is a big difference in what you're able to do with building a roster in Tier 2 versus some of the restrictions that there are in building a Tier 1 roster. If you want to play 3 tournaments a year, like Team NV at Emiola, they do this. They play the West Cup, they play the Central Cup, and they play the VLA Cup, and that's their season. That's all they want to do. That's great. If you don't want to play the whole Tier 1 regular season, like commit to that schedule, play like run through the playoffs, do the whole thing, fine. That's cool. We want the VLA Tier 2 is an open registration division. It is what you want to make it. If you are not a very good team and you just want to like play great tournaments and play good competition and go to the silver bracket and end up playing like competition by the end of an event, great. Like that's good. If you want to grind and get points and like reach those promotion thresholds to move to Tier 1, great. If you want to be really, really good and not play Tier 1, that is cool too. because we're getting amazing players into the gym. These two rosters, like for NV and Emiola, were loaded, absolutely loaded, like insane, like rosters or resumes of these players, all the European experience, the big name NCAA programs that were represented. Like, this is great. All of it is great for the league, and all these different teams approaching it a different way. That's exactly what we want to put out there.
So that begs the question, though: are the roster requirements too high for Tier 1?
Maybe.
What are the roster requirements for?
You've just got to be more consistently there. You've got to play more events, and you can't just like stack your roster for the VLA Cup only, which is exactly what both of these teams did that ended up making the final. Because in Tier 2 you can do that. In Tier 1, if you have people coming back from overseas, you have to have designated them months in advance instead of just like as soon as they get back stateside, you're like, okay, you're cool. You're just like picking up ringers, picking up free agents at the last minute, but I seriously, I think that it's good. It's good for the VLA to have these teams come in and put such good volleyball out there. Amazingly good volleyball in the final. The level was super duper high. So
yeah, I checked it out. It looked good. You sounded good. It was fun. It was a fun match to watch there. As I was making some notes earlier today between and Team NV and Emiola, but it just leaves me wanting a little bit more from those Tier 1 teams. I hate to say it, but it just feels a little bit like the VNL with the core teams, the contender teams.
Well, I mean, you also probably didn't watch the rest of the season when Team NV lost in the finals twice, both to Tier 1 teams in the previous tournaments. So Tier 1 had themselves a good season. All 3 VLA Cup divisional tournaments won by Tier 1 teams. So 3-1 on the year for Tier 1, not bad.
Like, is Team Pineapple basically Korea on the women's side out here?
Team Pineapple is a shell of their former selves, but we did see Loy Ball play.
I saw that.
Yeah,
Loy, hit the ground and make a dig. That was big.
Loy at age 51 played for Team Pineapple over the weekend, which was incredible to see. And then he and I did a commentary block on the all-day broadcast on Sunday together, which was just a blast. So it's incredible just to get to like hang out with Loy Ball on the weekends the way I do. It's really cool.
Honestly, when I come to, because my original plan was to come to this one, unfortunately, just didn't work out financially and stuff like that. But I think if I ever come and Loy's there, I'm just gonna be like hanging off of him, just be like peppering him with questions the entire time.
You wouldn't be the only one. A good question in the chat is, how did Nicolas Scherzin's team not go farther? It's because Scherzin wasn't there until Sunday. And so like Saturday was the start of the gold bracket, like the round of 16, and Team LVC got to the round of 8, but then lost to Team NV. So they lost to the eventual champs because Scherzin wasn't there yet. And so Nico played on Sunday and Team LVC's consolation game, and they beat Team Pineapple, but he just didn't quite get there in time. If he was there in time, then that round of 8 game between LVC and Team NV would have been an all-timer if Scherzin had been there.
Yeah, that's too bad. Was he coming straight home from Europe?
Pretty much
the case, or
he's been in the States for a bit. I know he was at the NCAA championship when Ohio State was still playing, but he's been bouncing around. Just couldn't get to Chicago before Sunday.
Have you guys thought about like making almost like 2 seasons, like one for just the people in the States and then another one that's maybe a little bit shorter when these international players come back?
And that's pretty much what we're doing. I mean, because we're not done with the season yet. We've got an event. We've got an event in 2 weeks in California. Then we've got the Tier 2 playoffs and the Tier 1 playoffs. So all the guys who are coming back are eligible for all those.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, season's not over. Just because the VLA Cup has 36 teams, it is the biggest event. It doesn't mean it's the last event of the season. We're still going through like the first weekend of July, I think.
What are we like? Is Marshman going to be playing on a team? Gassman?
Yeah. Marshman's the big Team LVC guy. Gassman is on the VNL roster for the US, so so probably not. But you'll be seeing some good names. Some of the like as good of a roster as any of the Tier 1 teams can field. That's what you're going to see at that championships tournament in early July.
Okay, great. Love to see it. Love to hear it. Can't wait to get out and experience it. The good old VLA. Maybe one day we'll have a Canadian team in there too.
Dude, put one in. It's literally an open registration division. Anybody north of the border, make a team, put it in, please. We would love to reach more of North American volleyball. We know the talent is there. Just get the organization together, email us, and we'll figure it out.
Nice little Canadian team, maybe a Mexican team in there to play in the California division. I think that would be dope.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Is that the end of this episode, Rob? Have we covered everything?
I believe we have.
I believe we have as well. So once again, tomorrow, Game 5, Trentino versus Lube, SuperLega finals. Be there, watch it, join the Discord, come be involved with that. The link for that is just down below here. And then Saturday, both of the Champions League finals, 11:30 Eastern time is going to be the women's match, Vakıfbank against Jastrzębski, an all-Turkey matchup. And then at 2:30 Eastern time, it is going to be the all-Polish matchup of Zaksa against, say it for me, Rob.
Jastrzębski.
Jastrzębski.
JSW.
Thank you. JSW.
I can't wait to hear whatever poor commentator gets put on both of those games. Probably one that will remain nameless. There's going to be a lot of pronunciations butchered. If you think that most people are willing to do the one Google search required to pronounce Jastrzębski correctly and to pronounce Zajabasha correctly, you've got another thing coming. So just prepare yourself for that. Prepare yourself for bad pronunciations this weekend.
Absolutely. Guys, make sure to give this video a like, a nice little thumbs up. Let us know in the comments what you think we should talk about heading into the VNL season, because it is coming up quickly. We can confirm Rob and I will be there week 1 in Ottawa.
Yes.
We will be there. We're also sharing an Airbnb, so that means even more content coming your way. For all you like hardcores, you know what that means. Drunk cast, let's go. At least one, maybe more. Maybe more.
It could be more. And we've got people in the chat. People are saying they have not found Daddy Stankovic yet. So remember,
Bassy Lassie hasn't even found him yet. And he's our number 1 G so far.
Big. So remember, Daddy is hidden. Better be quick about going back and finding him in case somebody else caught it. So put that in the comments. Put your suggestions on national team coverage in the comments. Give the video a like before we're done here at the stream. But other than that, we'll see you in the Discord for Champions League finals. We will see you next Tuesday, same time, same place.
Peace.